I'm Madison with Absolute Trust Counsel in Walnut Creek, California. We're an estate planning law firm handling all sorts of planning for your estate, as also after death administration. I am the vice chair of the National Aging in Place Council San Francisco Bay Area chapter, and we're here to offer all kinds of resources for people who'd like to age in place, wherever that place might be, whether it's your home, whether it's planning to move to assisted living, independent living, Medi-Cal resources for needing to go to skilled nursing, in-home support, all that fun stuff that no one wants to think about, but you really should, because it's not fun to think about in an emergency. And we're here today to talk to Jody Iorns. She's the executive director of the Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging, and I'll let her explain a little bit about herself and about her foundation.
Terrific. Thank you, Madison. Appreciate the invitation. And my organization is also a member of the National Aging in Place Council in the San Francisco Bay Area. Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging is a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1975 with a specific focus of helping seniors age in place by having a secure foundation and a control over their finances as well as their care. So we do that by providing fiduciary services, care management, and pre and hopefully soon post-pandemic, we provide respite care services for seniors living with Alzheimer's or dementia. So the types of programs that we offer runs the gamut from folks who can afford, we do have a fee-based program, but also for folks who may not be able to have those liquid funds, we also have programs to assist them as well. The goal here, and the reason it's important to think about this kind of thing, is that having a solid, consistent, and protected source of income helps you age in place wherever that may be, and knowing what your health challenges are or what they might be in the future can help you plan to stay protected. Financial abuse is the #1 elder abuse in the nation and in California, so it's important to have someone there to assist you when your perhaps your eyesight starts to go or your memory is not as strong as it used to be. And you could do that through what's called a fiduciary, especially if you don't have family close by or family at all. There are many, many seniors out there who either by life chances have lost their families, or they don't have kids at all, and they don't want to burden their friends or their nieces or nephews and so forth. And so fiduciaries can serve as what are called trustees, executors, and then durable powers of attorney for finance and for health. And this is important because if you lose your capacity, or perhaps you've gone into hospital or very sick and it's going to be an extended period of time until you are able to get back into your life and control of your finances, you have somebody there who is legally appointed as a fiduciary, your durable power of attorney for finance, to manage your accounts, pay your bills, secure your home, things along those lines, which when you're by yourself and perhaps as a senior, or even if you have a partner, can be difficult to do at certain times. And the same can be said for durable power of attorney for health. And in that person, it's also known as an alternative healthcare directive. And that person can advocate for you, can be your voice for when you don't have that chance. You're recovering from surgery, you've had a traumatic brain injury, and or you've developed dementia and you've lost the capacity. You know and can trust and have confidence that your fiduciary will be there to protect your finances and your health and make the right kinds of healthcare choices for you. So that's the fiduciary piece of what Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging does. The other piece is called care management. And that is where we're kind of what we call your professional relative. So I'm in the sandwich generation. So when my parents get sick, I'm the one that goes to the hospital, and I'm the one that talks to the doctors, and I'm the one that makes sure the medications are there, and I'm the one that's making sure their groceries are done. All of that kind of stuff. Well, that's what our organization does if you don't have an advocate at that level. And so we have a number of clients who might go into the hospital and then they're being released. Well, Are they ready to be released? Is where they're going safe for them? What are the choices? What are the options? Many of our clients don't have the ability to speak for themselves, so we are there to speak for them and ensure that they're protected. So those are our two active programs right now. Another piece that I think is important for folks to know, especially for folks who are on they basically considered the poverty level. I think, frankly, in California, that level needs to rise, but that's another conversation for another time. You can't afford the fees, you're worried about your finances, all of a sudden you've got money coming out of your account. What's going on here? We have volunteers, an army of amazing volunteers who can come into your home, work with you, and look at your accounts, take a look at the checks, make any phone calls for any curious things that you didn't remember doing, and to make sure that your finances are safe, and they can do tracking for your taxes, and just simply help you or help your parents or whoever is listening, however that relationship stands, to make sure that your finances are protected. And that is a program that we provide free of charge. So I think that's kind of everything in a nutshell. I really could talk for an hour and a half, so I'll kind of tighten it up here and let Madison pepper me with some questions.
No problem. What is the definition of a fiduciary other than, a funny word?
Yeah, right. It is a funny word. Basically, the word fiduciary means trust and care. In the state of California, we in the state of Arizona are the only states that require fiduciaries to be licensed to provide this kind of service to non-family members. And so as a licensed fiduciary, I have a duty of loyalty and a duty of care. So fiduciary means loyalty and care.
Excellent. And how would you as a fiduciary help someone age in place, or how could you?
Absolutely. Well, I think the most important thing is that when we meet with clients, we identify, what does that mean for them? Do they want to age in their home? Are they of the personality type where they want to go to an assisted living facility? So we will meet with them and take a look at their finances and bring in, because we don't claim to be financial planners, and we don't claim to be attorneys or real estate folks, right? But we have a bunch of resources in the NA, National Aging in Place Council, to pull in and say, okay, let's take a look at your finances and your home and your mortgage and your income. If your aging in place is going to be this, then this would be your plan, and this is what you would want to do. And if you needed financial planning, or if you needed to look at a reverse mortgage, or if you needed to look at some of those other factions to support that, we can make sure you have the resources and the expertise necessary to make that dream come true. The other piece is that security of the finances, right? So if you name our organization or a professional fiduciary to serve as your durable power of attorney, it's sort of an insurance plan. It's making sure that you never know what life is going to have hold for you. If you do have an accident and you lose your you lose your memory, or you have a traumatic brain injury, or you develop dementia, you've got someone in place. You have an organization like us or another professional fiduciary who knows you, who knows your history, who knows your wishes, and can make sure you stay on that path. We can ensure that you're not, we watch your accounts, and your credit, with you if you have capacity, and then on your behalf if you don't. And we can look for frauds, and we can look for scams, and we can look for all of those things that might put you in jeopardy of not being able to age in place.
Great. And what do you think is a good time to arrange for that fiduciary? I mean, we see a lot of clients who only put fiduciaries in place after their death, and occasionally we see people put their children in place prior to their death, like, I'm 98, I don't want to do this anymore, my daughter's going to take care of it. When is a good time for a fiduciary to be hired or interviewed or planned for?
Yeah, outstanding question. Without a doubt, our society plans for death when we get around to being okay about even talking about it. that aside, we generally plan for death. We've got our beneficiaries and we have our will and we have our trust. But what happens when you become incapacitated? That throws everything into chaos. So the best time to plan for this is before you have a chance of becoming, frankly, when you're an adult, right? When you are literally, the recommendation is when you are 18.
Right.
The Kaiser, the medical facilities, they want to know who your alternative healthcare directive. Generally, when you're that age, you've got parents and you've got brothers and sisters. But as you age, because that's the target audience here, is the aging, I would offer early 60s at the latest, really getting those plans in place. And the other thing I would absolutely recommend is having three plans. You have your plan A for your family, say your husband and or your wife, your spouse. Plan B would be if that person passes away, a daughter. Well, what happens if both of them pass away? What's your plan C? And the same goes with your contemporaries. Folks put this together at 60 and their friends are still of their right mind and age. 20 years down the line, folks have passed away, they've moved away, whatever. So that's where professional fiduciary really comes into play, is that generally they stick around for a long time, especially organizational fiduciaries. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. And speaking of organizational fiduciaries, what is the difference between a private professional fiduciary and a corporate fiduciary, like a bank?
Yeah, you bet. So as you explore the fiduciary world, as Madison just referred to, you're kind of presented with two choices. Banks and financial institutions like Schwab, Fidelity may or may not offer trustee word I'm looking for. Thank you. Services. Don't know. It started with a T in my brain. Clearly not working. Institutions generally require a minimum of your assets. So anywhere from $3 to $5 million is the minimum that an institution would require for them to be able to provide you that service. Private fiduciaries have different policies in place. I can't speak for all of them, but I can tell you that Diablo Valley Foundation does not have a minimum. We charge differently, fee for service, based on the asset balance, but we do not have a minimum. So the other thing that's important is that some corporate, some institutional organizations do not provide trustee services if you become incapacitated. They will do it upon your death, but they will not do it upon incapacity. And that's a very critical piece, because you do not know what your life journey is going to be. And it's always wisest to plan for incapacity, not just for death.
And they certainly won't be your advanced healthcare director.
Exactly. Yes. And that's an outstanding point. Not all professional fiduciaries will also serve as your durable power of attorney for health. Diablo Valley Foundation does. We also have that care management. So it's more of an all around program. But that is not necessarily, you won't find that necessarily with all private fiduciaries. But maybe you're okay with a daughter or a son or a niece and nephew speaking to your health care, and you want just the financial, right? That's kind of the other piece, and what makes it both fantastic but complicated. I just had an interview with a couple who has an institution serving as their trustee, and they want DVFA to be their durable power of attorney for finance and for health. So that's great, but what happens if they become incapacitated? So that's where it can kind of get a little complicated, but at the same time, you can also set it up to reflect your personal preferences and your needs.
Yeah, and I think people don't necessarily realize that they don't have to have the same incapacity trustee as they do their death trustee. So if they want a corporate fiduciary to do the after death, they can still name, like Diablo Valley Foundation, as their incapacity trustee and their durable power of attorney for finances. A lot of people kind of differ with those sometimes, even though you need them both together to be a well-rounded, agent for someone when they're incapacitated.
Yeah, I think, Madison, that's an outstanding point in terms of, both, and then the other way around. Perhaps you want family if you're incapacitated, but at the end, you don't want to create a situation where families can fight.
Right.
We get a number of clients who absolutely do have family nearby, but oh my goodness, they have 3 or 4 siblings and they have a history of fighting and they don't want to set them up. So that's where they bring in a neutral third party to serve as a fiduciary.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot with clients who are being their parents' fiduciaries now, or their parents' trustees now that their parents have passed away, that is generating enough in them to make sure that their children are not named as the trustees of their trust, because it is a great burden. Sometimes it's really easy and you're just divvying up a bank account and your parents were in a home and there isn't any stuff left over. But what happens when it's the family home that they've lived in for 50 years and you have to divvy up the stuff?
Yeah.
That was worth nothing, but it's everything to fight over.
It is, and because it may not be financially or fiscally worth anything, but that heart value, right? And so being able to step away and or have the third party come in to help manage that is very, very important. Yes, absolutely.
And does Diablo Valley Foundation of Aging, if I wanted to name them as the trustee of my trust, do I have to have pre-approval? Or do we just do it and it's a surprise to you guys when I die?
You don't need pre-approval. However, I highly recommend that you meet with us as an organization or any fiduciary that you might have in mind, because, as whenever you age into our services. So I have 100 clients on the books who are all between the ages of 60 and 70, right? So they're out there, they're living their lives, but we're there when something happens. So somebody passes away unexpectedly at 72, which is kind of young. We know what to expect. We will have met with them. We will have seen the trust. We will have had a chance to gather all the information we're going to know. That's for the trustee. Can guarantee you without question durable power of attorney for finance and health. It's critical to meet with the organization that you are thinking to have serve you as fiduciary, because these folks have to go in. We go in and we're like, we need to know account numbers. We need to know dates of birth. We need to have a copy of our driver's license. There's so much personal information we need to have to be able to access your accounts and advocate on your behalf. The other danger is that even if you have an attorney, like an organization like Absolute Trust, put the trust together, you have that confidence, but sometimes it's written in a way that perhaps the fiduciary is not familiar with, right? And if that attorney is no longer there, it's just very important to make sure your fiduciary is knowing what they're getting into and can serve your needs, because there are some fiduciaries who specialize in certain areas, and there are some fiduciaries who don't know about, who will not necessarily operate with business management. They don't take on corporate, like if you as an individual have a business and you want it to stay and be passed on, but in a mere period of time, that fiduciary is going to have to manage that business. There's some fiduciaries who say no. So it's highly recommended for our DVFA. We have had situations where people come to us and we had no idea, but we really highly encourage that you contact us and or any other fiduciary you might be thinking of working with.
Does DVFA have any requirements in order to be a client other than age?
Right. No, and that's one of the beautiful things. Some fiduciary, I think some fiduciaries, as I understand it, require a retainer. We don't require a retainer. We don't require any minimums. And so there really isn't a requirement, so to speak, other than we we do have a contractual agreement also, because we do charge fees for those clients who can afford the work. And then and so that's important. That protects both the client, the estate, and the organization, right? So we do have that. So we require a contract, and then of course copies of the legal documents.
Great. And do you require, just out of my own curiosity, because a lot of banks do you require, if you have a client that comes to you, to be a potential client that is getting their estate planning documents drafted, meaning you haven't been named yet, because obviously, hopefully they're coming to you before they name you in their documents. Do you have any particular language that you guys require in the documents at all?
Really, yeah, we request that our specific fiduciaries not be named specifically, right? That it's the organization, because one of the benefits of our organization, or organizational fiduciaries, and there aren't many, so it gets a little tricky, but it's more work on our end, not on yours, is to name the organization, because so I'm around and my colleague Mike Schmier is around. So you've got two fiduciaries. Well, if somebody's coming to me in their mid 60s, 20 years down the line, I might be retired, and then they age into place, but it's still Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging that is providing the service. So for us, we ask that name, and then we have the relationships and the right documentation, all the right language to work with the financial institutions, because financial institutions don't like that. I'll tell you, but again, it's more work on our end. But they're getting to be more used to us.
Thank you. And just as an aside, if people don't name you, but let's say I am the trustee for my mom and she passes away and I don't want to do it, and I have the power per the document, can I name you as trustee, come in and meet with you, and potentially pass that trusteeship onto you to handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a number of cases where that is the case. I think one of the other things is that you had mentioned earlier, in terms of, these folks are going through, they're being trustee or executor for their parents, and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to burden my children with this, is that it is a lot of work. I mean, the California requires licensing for a reason. The probate code is gargantuan, and to ask somebody with a full-time job and children to manage all of that is a lot, right? So yes, without question, come and meet with us, and we want to make sure that we have the resources available and time available. This world is going to expand and is already expanding. You may have heard the silver tsunami, right? The number of folks who are going to make up the senior and the aging community is going to quadruple in the next 2 decades, as I understand it. That's a lot. So the demand for our kind of work is only going to rise.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about fiduciary services or DVFA?
Not that I think we covered.
I think we did too.
Yeah, I think so. I do want to share that Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging does serve the San Francisco Bay Area. We were just Contra Costa County, but we are open now to folks throughout the Bay Area. There are 2 other organizations that nonprofit organizations that do what we do, and they're out on the peninsula. The other piece of the actually, there's one other thing I do want to share. The benefit about a nonprofit organization is that the fees that we charge, if they are not necessarily, say that we charge a certain percentage and we bring in the fees that may not, that more than cover the actual time we spend, it's important to know that those fees are going to serve the folks that can't afford these services. It supports our respite program. It supports our Telesura program. It supports our friendly visitor program when we can put it back into place. We're looking at implementing a fall prevention series and programs. There are a lot of different other programs that we provide that these fee-for-service programs help support.
Great, thank you. I am going to add Sarah Shafiabadi on. She's probably, there you go. You just have to unmute now. Okay, so this is Sarah. She is our chapter president and founder for the National Aging in Place Council San Francisco Bay Area chapter. So she's going to give a little bit more information about what we do and maybe a little bit about what she does and any upcoming information she wants to share.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jody, for all of that. That was wonderful. I really learned a lot myself. So thank you again for being here and sharing your time with us. I am very happy to be part of National Aging in Place Council here in the Bay Area, and we are here to help you throughout, any questions you may have about aging in place. We're a group of professionals. We have ethics training and we have background checks, and we're here to help talk through, because everybody has a different situation, and we want to be able to give you the best resources to, have the quality of life that you want. So I just want to share a couple of ways you can contact us if you have any questions. The number for National Aging in Place Council in the Bay Area is 925-268-0385. And email is NAIP like Paul, C like cat, .sfbayarea@gmail.com. So please feel free to reach out to us with any questions at all. I also will share that I work for Donor Network West, and we coordinate organ and tissue donation throughout the Northern California region and a little bit of Nevada. So happy to help if anyone has questions about that. As another end of life choice that we all get to make too, an important one. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you, Jody and Madison, for your help today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jody.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're not live anymore.
I didn't speak too quickly, did I?